people want to be tested. They want to be tested for their own reasons. They want to be tested to make sure that they're not spreading the virus. They
There
want
we go.
to make sure that they should be self-containing. I think people feel better once they know if they have it.
What is happening, mediocre people of YouTube? So this is a video that I've wanted to do for a while now. In order for me to properly do this video, we have to rewind back as much as we may not want to. We have to rewind back to the whole George Floyd thing. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that not only did that police officer kill that man, he in fact tortured that man to death. I don't think anyone would dispute that. I watched the original video, and I just can't even imagine, man. I can't even imagine what it must be like to die like that. You know, it just, who knows? I don't know how he ended up on the ground to begin with. He was cuffed, everything was cool. We've all seen it. But anyway, that kind of starts off this video because we're back to a race thing in this country where white people are just being called racists. You know, just being white, you're a racist. My experience, that's not true. I mean, I don't know if I've ever met an actual racist. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know people's personal lives and the history of every single person I've ever met. I've seen people who claim to be Nazis and things like that. I've seen stuff on the internet that's racist, seems to be racist. Especially as of late, the most racist group I've seen on the internet and on news, although I don't really watch mainstream media, the most racist group to date that I've seen is Black Lives Matter. I think that Black Lives Matter probably started out as a good idea and then turned into a racist thing, you know, because that's what it is. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Not just racist, but violent, hateful. I mean, when you've got groups like this flying people in, and by the way, you know, I want to just say, you know, Detroit, Michigan, where I'm from, usually reflects the best and the worst of the country at any given time. And we had our protesters here and everything, people protesting in Detroit. And for the most part, they're very peaceful protests. Probably some really good conversation taking place. That's what I'm guessing. Until groups like Black Lives Matter, or the group Black Lives Matter, started flying people into Detroit, Michigan from all around areas of the country. And these people's sole mission was to get other people agitated and stir up racism. Detroit has come a long, long way as far as a racial thing. You know, I grew up in Detroit, grew up around Detroit. I can tell you that I don't think that I've ever been the victim of racism too much anyway. On the contrary, before, I grew up in a suburb outside of Detroit and live in a suburb outside of Detroit, and a predominantly white suburb. And my father grew up in the city, and my father used to talk about race and race relations in Detroit and whatnot. And my first experience with a bunch of black people was when I first got into the wrecking business. My second job, matter of fact, black dude got me the job. Still a friend of mine to this day. And there was like 45 black guys and me. That was it. And yeah, that was the first time I was around a large group of black guys, and I was intimidated. And at lunchtime, it's time to go to lunch. Those guys were all getting ready, and this one dude comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, what's up?" He goes, "You're Mike, right?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "Hey man, I'm Slim. I'm James's cousin." I said, "Oh, all right." And he goes, "Come on, man." He goes, "Where are you going? Where are you going to lunch?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Come on over here, man." So I sat down with 45 black dudes and had lunch. And it was no different than sitting down with 45 white guys, or 45 people of all different ethnicities and races, and what I've come to find out about it, because I've always tried to understand the racial thing, because there's no question that there's racial relations in the United States have been stressed at times, to say the least. So I've always tried to kind of understand why that is, and I don't know if I do understand it. I guess I don't, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing this video. But what I found, no matter where a person comes from or what color of skin they have, people are people are people. I mean, all of us, we want a decent paying job. If we have children, we want our children to have a better life than we had, have it easier than we had, have a better education, we want better schools. People just, that's across the board. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what color you are. Everybody, when it comes down to it, everybody's pretty much wants the same things. There's different things culturally, no question, which always interested me as well, especially the food. But people are people, so I never judged anybody by the color of their skin or anything like that, because I already know that, people are people are people. There was a time when I didn't know that, because all I knew was what I saw on the news. And what I saw on the news growing up was that, people were being murdered in Detroit every night, every day, and fucking crime was really bad, and still is. People are still murdered every single fucking day in Detroit. And, so all I knew was what I saw on the news. And if you were to go by what you saw on the news, you would have thought it was a fucking war zone, in the city of Detroit. Which, I guess that's another debate. But what I do know is as I grew older, and started spending time in the city, as I got to be a teenager, got my driver's license, whatever, started to spend time in the city, is that it's not, driving into black neighborhoods, as a white guy, yeah, people stare at you and everything else, but I don't think people stare at you anymore in that situation than like a black dude driving through a predominantly white neighborhood. It's not about racism. It's just about, hey, there's a white dude in our neighborhood, or hey, there's a black dude in our neighborhood. I don't think that's about race. I mean, it is race, I suppose, but I don't think it's racist, is what I'm saying. For the most part, I know there's always a bad apple somewhere, but I don't see that as racist. But this whole thing has kind of got me thinking about, how we've come to this point, And again, being from Detroit, Detroit, Motor City, automotive, always has been. And, in the South, there was certainly more, I'm talking going back to the 1960s now, where there was certainly a lot more segregation in the South than there was in the North. And places like Detroit, Michigan, we had an influx of black people moving to Detroit to better their lives, because they knew they could come up here and get a job in the automotive field and make better money. And now I'm not saying it wasn't segregated here either, because of course the 1960s were before my time, but I do know about, Detroit used to have an area or a neighborhood, I guess you want to call it, that they called Black Bottom, and that's where all the black people lived. That's where all the nightclubs were, the black nightclubs. Black people lived in that neighborhood, and so you've got segregation there, I guess. But I don't know that any one race is segregating one against the other. I think maybe people just segregate themselves, because even to this day, pretty much like Detroit, the city of Detroit would be considered majority black owners and people renting and homeowners. The population would be majority black, where then there's places around the city, the suburbs around the city, that would be considered majority white. Now, I don't think people did that because of racism. And the reason I say that is because I think people who are truly racist are a very small fraction of society, a very small minority. I think people just did that, I think people segregate themselves. I think that's just kind of the way it is, because there are black people that live in the suburbs, and there are white people that live in the city of Detroit. And again, I don't think it has anything to do with race. I think it's just where they prefer to live. I mean, some people, it doesn't matter, whether you're black or white or what color you are. I mean, some people prefer to live in the city, and other people prefer to live in the suburb. But it is interesting how, and this isn't just Detroit, this is every major city in America. It seems like, the big cities in general are populated most with people with black skin, brown skin, whatever, and the suburbs surrounding it are white people or people with light skin. So I've always wondered why that is. I don't know. I think it's just maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. Part of me wants to say, well, maybe it's just people, they want to be around, other white people, and black people want to be around other black people, but I don't really know why that is. But it is nonetheless, It's not like it's up for debate or it's a question. It's always been that way. But I don't think that has anything to do with race, really. I've been watching. I watched video. I've been watching kind of several videos, you know, regarding Black Lives Matter movement, you know, the whole movement thing, and what people are saying about that. And I've watched some other people's videos regarding race. I think the one that I saw yesterday was Brad the Guitologist video, and he talked about being treated different and actually people being racist toward him when he was in high school, which I've heard of that happening. But I can't remember a time that ever happened to me, and I can't remember a time that I was ever involved with any, or if I ever knew anybody that was, you know, like that. I mean, I'm sure I have. I mean, I must have, right? But maybe not. I mean, like I said, again, I think people who are truly racist are a very small minority of the population. Maybe I just haven't run across them. But what's going on right now, it's shameful. And what's going on in politics is shameful. What's going on in politics and the media is shameful. And people should have cause to be ashamed. And this media has become so irresponsible. And I'll point out David Muir again, that guy that comes on at 6:30 or 7 o'clock every night. I mean, it's got to be, if you judge what was going on in the United States based on what you watched on that show, I mean, you would think the United States was the world was coming to a fucking end. And these politicians, these Democrats that are influencing this separation of races and politics, people, if you're, you know, I never understood, you know, the whole thing of it. Maybe it's why, part of the reason I don't get along with some people on YouTube, because people hear me talk about things that I'm conservative about, and they just assume that I'm a Republican, which I'm not. And then other people watch a piece of one of my videos and they'll hear me say something that I'm liberal about, and they'll just assume I'm a Democrat. And I've just never been, you know, one or the other, because there are definitely things. I don't think anyone is one or the other, because that's not how life works, you know? It's not how life works. It doesn't operate that way. There's things people are conservative about, and there's things people are liberal about, in all walks of life. You know, so I don't subscribe to one party or the other. And I think that anybody who does subscribe to one party or the other is a fucking fool. Now, I've said before that I know that, you know, a lot of my beliefs seem to be, you know, they align with the conservatives. And I think more so, like, when it comes to financial stuff, I seem to align with conservatives, I guess. But then there's other things like schools, where, you know, I seem to align more with the liberal or Democrat side of things. But I do know one thing: there is no honor among thieves. Okay. And not one of these politicians that you're sticking up for is thinking about you or sticking up for you in any way, shape, or form. They're all just thinking about themselves. Which would be one thing if they weren't elected to office, because when you're elected to office, your job is to think about other people. You know, that's what you signed up for. To represent your constituents as a member of Congress or the Senate or any, you know, form of government. your responsibility is to represent your constituents. And, you know, just because one of your constituents happens to vote Democrat a lot of the time doesn't necessarily, you know, make them a Democrat, you know, or happens to vote Republican majority of the time doesn't necessarily make them a, you know, you're supposed to represent all of the people, and that has been lost sight of for a long time now. With all of these politicians, they just want to pit one against the other so that they get what they want. When I'm saying they, I'm talking about the individual politician that's holding office. They want to get what they want. Okay? They're not worried about what you want. They can care less about what you want, unless it happens to be the same thing they want. Then all of a sudden they want to be your buddy, or at least act like they're your buddy. They're not. Again, life doesn't work that way either. It's how it's supposed to work, but it doesn't. But in this media, and their reporting of all of this stuff, and then these terrorist groups like Black Lives Matter, you know, talking about how all white people are racist. Well, I mean, anybody could come out and say the same thing about black people, or Chinese people, or Indonesian people, or people from England and Europe, or Italians, or, you know, anybody could say that. Well, all Italians are racist, all white people are racist, all black people are racist. You know, black people range from all over the world, you know, that have black skin. White people who have white skin range from all over the world, you know. But these groups, Black Lives Matter and groups like them, they're nothing but terrorist organizations. You don't believe me? You know, if the, and it's, you know, this thing about defunding the police, and I just watched a video not long ago, a guy that I kind of watch on and off on YouTube, and he talked about defunding the police. And how if you actually go check it out, it's really not that bad of a thing. You know, anybody that talks like that is a fucking idiot and has never put themselves in someone else's shoes before. You know, I mean, and what it boils down to is more than 80% of 80%, not more than 50%, more than 80% of Americans want more police. You know, every so often you get a bad cop, man, and I don't even know what to call that guy that killed that George Floyd guy. I mean, I don't even know what to call him. He's not a bad, I mean, he's just fucking pure evil, man. You know, but I will agree that the police departments have to do a better job of weeding out employees like this. You know, this cop apparently had all kinds of different shit on his record. He should have never been on the streets to begin with, from what I remember. So, yeah, I put that on the police department. They need to do a better job of who they hire. I think, in general, I don't interact with the police every day. I have a lot of cop friends and family. So I do kind of, I like to think that I see it more from their perspective, you know, when I need to. But, you know, I don't interact with the police every day. But what I will say is, it seems like the interactions that I do have with police, or I've had with police over the years, it seems to me that I think maybe the police need to learn how to communicate better with people. And I think that the reason they're not able to communicate better with people is probably, for the most part, I'm guessing it's probably because they're scared. Not only of, I mean, if it wasn't the job alone wasn't enough to be scared, frightened every day of your life. Now you've got to worry that, every single move you make, every single word that comes out of your mouth is being dissected by Black Lives Matter or a group like them to make you out to be some type of person that you're probably not. Now for the people who are those type of people, they're racist and everything else, hey, it is what it is. But I just don't think that there's that many cops out there that are racist. I don't see it. Otherwise, especially in this day and age where everybody has a cell phone and a cell phone camera, if it was as bad as Black Lives Matters claims it is, there would be videos popping up on YouTube every single day, multiple times a day, of police brutality and police killing people. Did you hear what I just said? If it were as bad as these groups claim it is with police, you would see videos on the internet every single day, multiple times a day. I mean, from what they claim, you could put a video up every 5 minutes of police brutality and or killing somebody. And you're just not seeing that. Now, I don't watch a lot of mainstream media at all. When there's something I'm concerned about, I do my own research. I'm no longer an evening news person, haven't been for a long time, because I know that most of what they're reporting in the media is bullshit. It's half-truths and lies, flat-out lies. And that's because the news is based on ratings, man. It's not based on the truth. It's based on ratings. If you don't know what ratings are how many people tune in to the news broadcast. And that translates to money via advertising. So it's in the media's interest to do something to get you to watch more often, longer. It's in their best interest. And until we have a media platform who it's not in their interest to do that, you're not going to get the truth. You're going to have to dig for it. When you want the truth on a subject or a matter, you're going to have to do your own research, and you're going to have to dig deep, man. Because otherwise you're just not getting the entire truth. Things can be pulled out of context so easily and, made to look absolutely horrible or made to look absolutely wonderful when the exact opposite is actually true. And it happens all day long, every day. It's happening right now. The media is putting together a show. It's 20 after 12. The media has a show airing right now, the news media, and they're putting together a show for this evening. They'll never report to you just the news, just what happened today. It used to be that way. In fact, it wasn't long ago you could still watch PBS, and it was that way. Back when I kind of kicked the mainstream media to the curb, Jim Lehrer was still on PBS. And you could go and watch Jim Lehrer, PBS NewsHour with Jim Lehrer, and there's no advertising because PBS is funded by, you watch PBS. So there's no advertising. There's no advertising for antidepressants and whatnot after you've watched an extremely stressful and depressing show. There's no advertising for for that. So he would come on and tell you what went on today, and it was very dull and bland, and most people didn't watch. I watched because it was the most honest broadcast we had at the time. And now even that's gone, as PBS has gone all left wing. Even they're not reporting, because again, they're trying to get funded, man. They're trying to keep it on the air. The way to do that is to connect with a group of people. All of this shit comes down to money. Whether it's black and white, it's not about black and white. It's about green. Always. The whole political thing, Republican and Democrat, it's not about Republican and Democrat, it's about the money. Conservative and liberal. It's about the money. It's always about the money, all the time, period. Black Lives Matter. It's not about racism, segregation, oppression. No, it's about money. That's what it's about. Money. And until you guys figure that out, get it through your fucking head, that that's what it's all about, all the fucking time, you're going to continue to take one side or the other. And a lot of people, they won't even listen to an argument that argues outside of what their belief system is. They won't even listen to it. They're just, you're a racist. If you're saying anything other than what I'm saying, then you're just a racist. And there's going to be people in my comment section that are going to call me a racist. I promise you. Because I don't agree with their point of view. Well, when you call people a racist, it's just kind of like, what can I prove? What can I do to prove I'm not a racist, right? What can I do to prove that I am racist or I'm not a racist? You can't. Once you go to that extent, you just call somebody a racist. What it says about you is that you're just dismissive and closed-minded. You're not willing to think outside your own head. And in most cases, you're not willing to think outside of someone else's head because they're the ones that fucking put it in your head to begin with. And now, with President Trump, and of course President Trump, you know how that is. He's a racist, right? So, and he's just a racist because, they've deemed him a racist. So what about Obama? Was he a racist? I think he was. And getting back to what I was talking about a few minutes ago about people coming from the south to the north back in the 60s because they could get a job here and better their lives. I wonder, and again, I didn't live during that time, but, I'm recently thinking to myself, I know there was certainly, what my understanding is that there was a lot more segregation in the south than there was in the north. So, recently I was thinking, I wonder if, black people from the south back then came to the north expecting it to be, no different. And, expecting people to be racist. And again, it's like you're just marking a person as a racist just for the sake of marking them as a racist, labeling them, even though you know nothing about them. I don't know, it's interesting to think about. But I do know one thing. I know that this whole racist thing that's going on in the United States right now is, 90% of it's bullshit. When you have people out there saying, well, if you're white, you're a racist just because you're white. You can say that about anybody. But when you have people, and then you have a news media recycling that and putting it out there and getting people agitated, it comes to a point where the news media is no better than Black Lives Matter or any other group like that. Because you're agitating people. Sorry, I got a sunburn, man. It's starting to itch. Anyway, people want to solve these issues, I would think, but groups like Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter, I keep saying groups like them, but it's actually Black Lives Matter and groups like them. They have no interest in solving any of this stuff. Why? Because it's always about the money all the time, period. There's no healthy conversation or debate going on with these people. Because there's no interest in solving anything. The only interest is more money coming in. So I guess what I'm getting at is that I'm not saying that there's not a race issue in the United States. What I'm saying is that the race issue that we have, whatever it is, first we need to figure out what that race issue is. Then we need to figure out how to solve it by having healthy conversation and interactions. How's that going to happen? I mean, this is probably, a lot of people have probably tuned out of this video by now because they, people just don't want to hear these type of things. They want to hear about, I'm not going to come onto my YouTube channel and make a video just talking about how, Black Lives Matter says it's this way and I'm saying it's the other way and that's the way it is. I'm not here to do that, I'm not on this planet to do that, None of us are, none of us were ever built as human beings to agree with one point of view or the other, wholeheartedly and 100%. We're just not built that way, none of us. Some people like chocolate, other people don't, Some people like coffee, other people don't. For somebody like me, how could you not like coffee? I drink it every day, all the time, all day long. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the conversation is to be had. I think it's things like this, just fucking talking, being real. I know that people that I talk with, both black, white, other areas of the world, none of them give a flying fuck about Black Lives Matter or anything. They don't want nothing to do with those kind of people because they're fucking hateful, evil people. They're people that are interested in segregating and separating people. It's, we fought one civil war, that was basically, we fought that war more or less based on oppression. And now we're actually, it almost looks like we're getting into another civil war that this time, a lot of people think the first Civil War was about segregation. But in my opinion, it was about oppression. And I think, a lot of people would agree with that. But I think if we have to fight another Civil War, this time it really will be about separation and segregation. Because that's what people are doing right now. They're separating themselves from someone else based on what someone else has to say. Not what's going on in their own head,
it's a mass hysteria
of segregation. And like I say, all the people that I interact, nobody wants to fucking live that way. Nothing to do with it, man. Everybody wants to live a peaceful life. Like I said in the beginning, you know, they want a better life for their children, you know, an easier life for their children. They want their children to go to good schools. You know, there's things that are important to people. And in the case where, you know, a person leaves the planet, you know, you don't ever go to a funeral home and hear conversations about Black Lives Matter and race. You know, somebody told me a long time ago, you ever would need to remind yourself of what's really important, go to a funeral home and just go sit in the back for a couple of minutes, you know. Listen to what people have to say, because they're not talking about this and that, what's on the news tonight. Usually the main thing you hear people saying is that they wish they had more time. Wish they would have spent more time with that person. So I think, you know, as far as being a human being on this planet, probably one of the most important things to you is time. You know, what you're going to do with your time. So in the case of these terrorist groups, and that's the mark you want to leave on the world, you know, and that's what you did with your time on this planet, I guess, you know, so be it. I'm not interested in wasting my time, in my opinion, wasting time on trying to figure out another way how to make myself different from other people and make other people different from me. You know, it's a fucking waste of time to me. It's not even something I want to think about, man. Too many other things I want to do, and there's too many other things I need to be doing than thinking about shit like that. And I don't think I'm alone on this, you know. I think most people, you know, as far as race goes or where a person's from or whatever, I think, you know, probably about 95% of people all over the world do not give a fuck what color skin you have, where you're from, or anything else. It doesn't affect their daily life, you know. It just doesn't. How does it affect your daily life, what color skin a person has or where they're from? Just tell me, answer that for me if you want to answer in the comments. How does my color skin affect your day-to-day life? You know, or how does somebody else's color of their skin affect your daily life? So anyway, that's what I got. I wanted to make a video doing this kind of talking about this stuff and just coming with it for real, because, you know, I've seen my old buddy Gerald Ray, you know, making some videos, and I know he's been attacked lately, and I don't think he deserves to be attacked for speaking his mind on things. I don't think anybody really deserves to be attacked for speaking their mind on something. You know, I mean, if Black Lives Matter, if the people that are involved in that group were to get attacked right now, you know, would they deserve it? I don't know, man. I don't think so. You know, unless they're doing something to deserve it. You know, if you're hurting somebody else or getting ready to kill somebody else or burn somebody's fucking business or house down or something like that, which I just never understood that either, burning down your own communities. Again, you know, I can say that, you know, we're pretty proud here in Detroit of the way things have gone recently. You know, for the most part, you know, there's been some shit, there still continues to be murders every day. Say, you know, black on black crime, and there is certainly a higher percentage of black on black crime in the United States, period. But, you know, there's white on white crime too, you know. It's so you know, you start to think about, I wonder how many of those black on black crimes are committed just because, you know, that's where they live, in a community that's predominantly black. Just as much as, like, you know, if somebody gets murdered in a white community, it's more likely another white person that killed them. But then there's also the issue of, you know, why is it that there is so many black men dying, being killed, you know, in violence, you know, not by white people, but by other black men? I mean, that's definitely a conversation worth having. Let's figure out how to fucking solve that, man. Because that's been an issue for a long time now. You know, if Black Lives Matter wanted to take up a cause, you know, let's figure that one out. You know, and I know there's going to be people that say, yeah, well, you know, the prisons are also populated with majority black. Well, yeah, I guess they are, you know, and I don't know enough about that to really comment on it. But I do know that, you know, violent crime in this country is certainly black on black takes a high percentage of it, which is just absolutely incredible and insane. You know, when you really start thinking about that kind of stuff, it's like, why has that been the case now for so long? You know, it's not something new. It's been going on for a long time. It got even worse in the 80s and 90s, and it's just never recovered one bit. You know, I mean, you know, you've got a city like the city of Detroit, you're looking at, you know, 250, 300 murders a year, and that's pretty much every major city in the country is, you know, around that amount of murders every year. And again, you know, it's in general, it's black on black crime. Like I said, there's got to be a percentage of that is just due to circumstances. It's where you live, but you know, there's also certainly a percentage of that is just unexplained, and we need to start having that conversation and figure out, you know, how do we fix that one, man? Because I'll tell you what, it could be a much more peaceful country if we could just get some of that, those murders down, you know, and that violence down. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section, all that good stuff. And peace out.